Welcome to the Infinite Show.
All right. Welcome. Let's see. Let's get live on Instagram. We're live on Instagram. We're live all over the world. And for everybody tuning in, it's a really exciting show we have tonight. We're going to play the premiere of a new song. It's a song that I wrote just now. I was playing a song. I was just playing my guitar. It's like, before I get on my computer to write, let me pick up my guitar. And I started playing. And then I just started making up lyrics. And I was like, oh, I like this. And then we recorded. And I'm going to debut that song that's still being written on the show tonight to the entire world.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's kind of a big deal. You seem really excited about it.
I was thinking of that song that's like about how your life is an unwritten book. And the rest is still unwritten.
Natasha Bedingfield.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like that was my cousin's favorite song at her bat mitzvah. Like everyone went crazy when that song came on. My little cousin.
Yeah. It was a big song when it came out. So I'm looking at the game in terms of that late game safety. So they were up, they were up 11, which means that
they had the spread covered.
So they had the spread covered. Houston had 12 because they missed the PAT. Either they missed it, or whatever happened. So it was 23-12. And with 11 seconds left, I'm assuming it was done intentionally, because it looks like they might have just wasted a lot of time, because the guy ran out of the end zone. So let's see. But either way, with 11 seconds left, that's insane. 11 seconds left. And they get a safety for the spread to not get covered.
Like, people probably lost tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Other people made tens of thousands of dollars. Like,
yeah. Interesting. Let's see what happened. 1st and 10, ran for 4 yards, kneeled for -4, kneeled for -5. So it was 4th and 15. And instead of punting, they got into punt formation. And then it ended up being a safety, which I'm going to assume was intentional, so that they didn't have to punt. Because if they punt from their 18, Texas gets the ball back. If they return the punt, if they run it back, you're now within striking distance.
I mean, do coaches look at the spread before the games? Do they know? How do they not know? Are they like, oh, no, don't tell me. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't be surprised. It seems like probable, but I would not be surprised at all if they didn't know. Like, there's just noise. That's other people. If you're in the ring going to fight, you don't have to know what people are betting all around you. But there's obviously a lot of talk about, the NFL being
rigged.
Yeah. No, it's fake league, the NFL. But that's kind of another story. I will say this. I saw the craziest thing of a late game thing, swinging a bet maybe I've ever seen. It was some kind of random college basketball game. I don't even remember the teams that were playing. Or it might have even been an NBA game. I don't even remember. But the point is, the over-under was at 228.5. Okay. For the total score of the game. And the total score of the game was 226. Okay. And the team that was winning had the ball in the front court and was just dribbling out the game. Because they were, however much they were up by like 10 or something. So, there's just a few seconds left in the game, and the team that's winning is just dribbling it out. And then the horn went off, and they thought the game was over. But there was actually a half a second more on the play clock than on the shot clock. So the game, they let the shot clock violation go, the team that was winning, because they were just going to run the clock out. But even though the other team can't win, the refs, they're like, no, wait a minute. There's still a half a second left. We have to play that last half a second and put it back on. So the ball gets taken out by the team that's losing on their defensive side of the court.
Not at half court.
Not at half court. It's even actually right in front of their bench. Probably halfway, maybe not kind of half court, but a little bit, like, maybe 10 feet in. And they just have to throw the ball in to end the game. And they throw it in to a guy, and the guy, just for shits, from 65 feet out, just throws the ball up across the court, and he makes it. And it counts. And that put the under to the over. And they got up to 229 on a 228.5 total points scored. That's the craziest of those things I've ever seen.
So how did they make the 3-pointer?
So with half a second left, the team that's losing, they inbounded the ball to the guy, and he threw it 65 feet across the court. Like an extra long half court shot. They just threw it into him, and he just turns and he goes,
right,
throws it up 65 feet in a pointless game when everybody thought it was over, when the refs had to play the last half a second because of the difference in the shot clock.
Right.
So a smaller stage than what happened with Kansas City. A lot more people upset about Kansas City, but that one was, and I just happened to see it like yesterday or something. So that was crazy. What do you want to talk? So there's a few things. One, some downloads I got last night about time itself, but also for what there is for us to do, or some things that you could do, and some business modeling for Holistic Human, and got some downloads about that. So do you want to get into that work, or do you want to hear the debut of my new song?
I think we should start with the song.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do that.
Is it called Unwritten?
The rest is... What if I just played that? What if I played like a really bad version of Layla or something? Gotta remember it. How's the sound?
Play the guitar again.
This is my grandfather's guitar. Can you hear it?
Yeah, there's. What was that?
I moved the mic. Does that work or is that worse?
There's a weird thing with the sound. This is what was happening when you were playing music too. Like, I don't know if you had some like automatic thing on the live stream that tries to balance the sound out somehow.
Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna skip that, and we'll do that another time, and I'll record it, and then we'll debut it on the Infinite. So I lied to our audience around the world. I wish you weren't a liar. Let's talk.
Just go into your audio settings real quick. There's something called echo cancellation. I have mine on. There's something called reduce mic background noise. I have that on. All those are filters that like could be distorting the sound, but there's one called automatically adjust mic volume.
Yeah.
Do you have that one on?
No, that one's not on.
Yeah. Like I would turn those on, turn those off real quick and just try strumming the guitar again.
Okay. So right now I have nothing on. How's that?
It's better.
Maybe let me try stereo audio. Let me click that.
Now it's only in one ear.
Interesting. Okay. Now let me do echo cancellation, not reduce mic background noise. How's that?
Sounds better than before. So which one did you had two on before?
Now I have echo cancellation without reduce mic. Does this one sound good?
It sounds better than the reduced mic thing. That's what was really messy.
Now let me put on automatically adjust mic volume and see if that helps too. How's that one?
Turn that one up. More than anything, like, do you have one microphone or two?
One.
Yeah, okay. Ideally, you'd have one on the mic, on the guitar, and one on your mouth.
But what I could do, I could just keep it on my mouth.
Just let it pick up from, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see how that is. How's that?
Good. Did you turn off the other two or no?
Let's see what's on. Echo cancellation's on, nothing else.
I would turn it off. I think that's more. Yeah, that's more if you have like another person in the room where you're playing your speakers out loud. Like you're listening on headphones, so that shouldn't matter.
So how's this?
It sounds way different, but it sounds clean.
Okay. Maybe if I moved it down a little bit. So it's a little
no, it's like your microphone input volume is different for some reason, like wildly different. So I would put it more towards your mouth.
Okay.
Just talking to the microphone for a second.
How's that?
Yeah.
Should I just keep my mouth on the microphone like this?
Well, I don't know why that other setting makes your microphone sound so much louder. The echo cancellation, you wouldn't think would like boost the gain, but it does.
So is this the best?
It's the cleanest, but for the rest of the talk, I would definitely turn the echo cancellation back on because again, it's boosting your gain somehow. So it's a much louder
When
sound.
I have it on when I play guitar, it's screwy.
No, it's not screwy. It's not that bad. I would turn it back on.
Oh, okay. So echo cancellation's on right now.
Right.
Okay. I still feel like I'm having flashes of kind of being between worlds too.
It must be that echo cancellation.
Things are shifting. Like we're on like, the veil thinning and all that. Like there's gonna be a point when we just break through and we start like manifesting shit real quickly, and we don't go back.
I feel like that's already happening.
Yeah, well, you're definitely doing that. This song is called well, I literally was playing it for like 10 minutes before we went on, but I actually kind of like it. Okay. It's called Mary and Joseph. So far, that's what it's called, because those are the first two words. Mary and Joseph, they were friends of mine. He said, I'm gonna make that girl my Valentine. I'm gonna love her till the end of time. I'm gonna make that girl mine, mine, mine. Mine, mine, mine. She said, Joseph, my baby, you're the only one. Me and you, baby, well, we just begun. Living life together, we gonna have some fun. Our love together, our love forever is brighter than the sun, sun, sun. We gonna have a son, son, son. He's gonna be brave and wise. He's gonna be kind and smart. He's gonna have his mama's eyes and his daddy's heart. He's gonna have his daddy's heart. So that's what it is so far. And then the next line is going to be about Jesus.
The rest is still unwritten.
The rest is still unwritten. And it's going to be about Jesus having the heart of the Father and something, not in between. Yeah. So there's
very clever. It's like you don't really think about certain people in their certain roles. Like the way that you thought about Mary and Joseph was a very relatable parents, like about to have a son. They're just excited.
Yeah. And like thinking about it too, like we're so, this whole thing with the virgin birth, it just like, it takes away, it's like, it's Jesus and Mother Mary. But like, what about his dad? Like his dad was around. Like Joseph was still his dad, even if it was a virgin birth, like Joseph still raised the kid who went on to be the Christ. It wasn't like some absentee father or something. It's very interesting how we don't.
Or he wasn't the real father. He was just Mary's new dude. And, raised Jesus as his own son.
That's what I'm saying. Even if he was the new guy, even if it really was a virgin birth, he still raised him. He still raised the kid. He was still dad. He was still daddy. He was still Abba.
That's a big deal if you think about it, because the whole virgin birth thing doesn't sit right unless you believe in virgin births.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you were dating a girl and she suddenly was pregnant, but you hadn't had sex with her yet, you'd be like, man.
No. You don't know. It was God's. It's God's. What are you talking? Like God knocked you up? It was Rico.
Ooh.
What if What if Mary just like said that because she was afraid that she'd get caught? She's like, no. It was God. I swear, I'm a virgin. And Jesus was actually like a born out of wedlock bastard child, and we don't know who his dad is.
Right.
And because Mary told like this amazing lie, he ends
Right.
up, like,
Well,
he
some
ends
of
up
these
becoming-
crimes back in the day were like, adultery. Like, were you stoned to death for adultery?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the motivation to lie for some of these high crimes and misdemeanors is much higher than you think, or sorry, lower. The motivation to lie is lower than you might think.
The motivation to lie?
Yeah, because if you are found guilty of a certain crime, and all you have to do is say, it wasn't me.
Yeah. So the motivation would be high.
Yeah, the bar would be lower. Sorry. The motivation would be higher. The bar would be lower.
The bar of determining if this is worth lying or not. No, that
motivation to lie
would be very high.
Would be high.
You'd have a very high motivation to lie if you were a female adulterer at the turn of the millennia.
Right. It's funny when that thing came out where they're like, it was a meme where girlfriends or wives would ask their husbands or their boyfriends how often they thought about Rome.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm so guilty of that. Like I think about the turn of the millennium all the time. Just in a historical sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like going back to like 3000 BC and then that 1,000 years of history that approaches the birth of Jesus and also the destruction of the Second Temple. And before that, when King Herod ruled.
You think about that all the time?
All the time. I think, Vespasian doesn't get enough notoriety in history and his son Titus, but like Julius Caesar and the Claudian dynasty stopped after Nero? There's 6 or 7 rulers that were in the family of Julius Caesar and then Octavian, Augustus. And then that family dynasty died out. No, they no longer ruled Rome, is what I mean to say. And Vespasian's line took over. And all the early church fathers, they all had the moniker Flavian. Which connoted the family and or the honorific title associated with Vespasian and Titus. And I mentioned that because like Josephus, when he essentially became a part of the Roman aristocracy, took on the moniker Flavius, but so did all of the early church fathers. Like there's a connection between the early church fathers and the Flavian dynasty. That's like crazy.
I have no idea about anything you're talking about. I've never heard of any of these things. The Flavian dynasty?
Yeah.
When were they around?
Basically from like 70 to 72 AD for I don't know how long they lasted, but a long time. And we're talking about the virgin birth and these other prophecies that were fulfilled by the birth of Jesus and or the life of Jesus. But those prophecies were Jewish prophecies. And there's a scholarly line of thinking, and perhaps a, conspiratorial line of thinking that posits that Josephus, who was a Jewish general who was captured by the Romans and became essentially like a turncoat, if you will, but he became a a whisperer to the generals who then went and conquered the Jews in Jerusalem and destroyed the Second Temple. There's a line of thinking that said, well, Josephus actually knew the Jewish prophecies because he was a Jew. The Romans didn't really know the Jewish prophecies. They weren't religious, nor were they Jews. And so Josephus may have planted the seed to the early church fathers that Jesus fulfilled said prophecies. And there's even thinking that goes so far as to say that perhaps he wrote one or more of the, or seeded the knowledge that became the written word of the early Gospels. So the Vespasian line in the Flavian dynasty is totally wrapped up with the history of Rome and the history of the Roman Catholic Church. And if you ever wanted to know what happened to the Western Roman Empire, the answer is they became the Roman Catholic Church. And there's a direct line between the Flavian dynasty and the Roman Catholic Church that continues till today.
You know, that's perfect. It's perfect segue into the book on time.
All right.
Which starts by focusing on the Gregorian calendar, which was named after Pope Gregory, and the calendar in 1582, which was the essentially iteration of the Julian calendar.
Right. It's the Julian calendar. It's just a minor. It's the Julian calendar.
Yeah. And so that leads into what you're talking about.
Chanting. That leads into Gregorian chanting.
So let me show you how the book is looking.
Oh, right. Can I add it?
Yeah. So here, let me open it up so you can.
Oh, what? You added images?
So I had, yeah. So, oh, actually, let me go here. Yeah. So Cole put this together.
Oh,
Is this a first draft?
right.
Oh, that's only 5 pages. What? Hang on a second. No, it's 23 pages. Okay. I don't know why it says that. So this, doesn't it look nice?
Hold on. I'm going full screen. Wow.
For some reason, it's not letting me share more than just, so I'll just do it like this.
It's not letting you, if you go full screen, you mean?
When I go full screen, it doesn't let me show all the pages.
Go full screen.
I go full screen and it only lets me show 6.
Keep going. Or can you just scroll up and down, like by going 2 fingers up and down them?
No, you can only go left or right when I go full screen here. Let me try, is one of these present? Print.
Can you just turn it into a PDF? And share that one and then go full screen in PDF?
Well, I have
yeah, download it as a PDF.
But I can't because I can share that. Because I was remembering I can't share music. But
right.
But I can share, I already have it as a PDF. So perfect. But I was still had it in my head that I could only share something on my same browser. So let me share something from my window. Okay. Let's open this bad boy up. Where is it?
Since we can't share music to our beginning of our live stream show, we should just come up with like a live a cappella song that we do at the beginning every time.
Can we just sing the opening from Carmen Sandiego?
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego.
She went from Nashville to Norway, running to Zimbabwe, Chicago to Czechoslovakia and back.
I think it would be amazing if we didn't tell our guests that we were going to do an a cappella intro each time, nor do we let them see the show before they're on the show, such that it was just a complete surprise. The a cappella intro.
I don't know why I can't.
Where in the world is Aaron Zahavi?
It's not. Okay. I don't think I want to share that, actually. I'll share it with you on Canva. It's fine.
Okay.
Because I can't.
You can share a PDF. You don't have to share like a.
I know, but it's not here. Let's try that. Here we go. I'm going to bring it up. Okay. So here's the chart, but I think I'm going to put it later. And we don't need to read it, go through, but we'll just give you a feel for how it looks. And so I want you to give me your thoughts, feedback, just initially going through. Because it was relatively short, I wanted to make the font as big as possible while not looking like a slideshow. It still could feel like a book, but something that like you could read on mobile without having to pinch. Right. But you can't have the font too big or too little writing, or else it's not a book, it's a presentation.
What's up with the star tetrahedron?
All of the images were put in by Cole.
Including that little star tetrahedron just at the bottom of the image?
Every single, I said, here's the text, and they made everything else as the foundation. And so I like it, though.
I'm very surprised. I didn't imagine it being presented this way at all, which it's just kind of cool.
Now seeing it like this, what are your thoughts seeing this?
I'm interested.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to present very cosmological this way. Like, I'm already getting 5D vibes.
Is it too cosmological?
I mean, I think it's just going to it's going to resonate with a certain audience. And I think that's what's beautiful about it. It's not going to be for everyone.
Yeah. But there is something, though, about wanting to make, I want the words are supposed to be accessible. So it could be the kind of thing where the presentation, the framing, the pitch can be like, what did you say? You said something today which felt good.
Right. It was something like, are you tired of trading your time for money? Start here.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, that type of hook is that
is a perfect hook for something like this.
Yeah.
That's even more down to earth than what this is.
Well, 100%. That's what I'm saying. Like, so visually, this has a little bit of cosmic 5D vibe to it. And I don't want to go any further, but it's also just kind of, it's artistic. The book itself is an art piece, which that's, when Cole made my website, I would never have thought to make it that way. It's kind of through his eye a bit, and maybe I like it, maybe I won't. I don't, and we don't agree on everything, or the guys that he's working with, and certain things. They've done a good job with the videos. The videos come out pretty good. And I wouldn't have made it like this. If I did the images, it would not have looked like this. But I see this, and I'm like, oh, I like this. I like the colors. I like the orange and blue.
Right.
And even though the imagery is a bit 5D, and even the font feels, has Feels like you'd read it on like pirate parchment or something. But but the text itself is very accessible.
What is a pirate's favorite letter?
Well, you'd think it was R, but it's not.
No, it's the C.
Yeah. So that's the way it looks. And there's some, I have to make like, I need to do some editing with it. Like some of it, they just made some like unnecessary mistakes. Like some of the sentences were broken up and made into 2 sentences. And it's like, but it didn't work. And we weren't doing that type of editing. It's like, I don't know why they would do that. And then like a couple paragraphs were missing. And like one paragraph was repeated. And so like, it's like that kind of stuff shouldn't happen. You know?
I mean, it happens like when you're just translating from one document to another. I mean, I do a lot of video editing and that happens all the time.
But I mean, I think like if you skipped over something and you didn't copy and paste one piece, I guess that's something. But like a very clear, it's interesting because it was like, it wasn't edited, but some things, maybe the way it showed up were just like a couple sentences were split, like where there was a dash, they just put a period and it just didn't work. But anywho, so I got to go through that. But I didn't like reread it and edit it before I gave it to Cole to put together for a couple reasons. One, like, I just feel like there hasn't been an equal exchange for what's been getting done. And I want more to get done, you know? And I was like, we got to move. We got to get some stuff going here.
Well, you're talking about it very, it can be very, I don't want to say black and white, but you can create the standards that they're supposed to hit and the check marks and the deadlines. Like you can.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you know, deadlines just aren't being hit. But we'll see how that goes. But then stuff comes back and it's like, yeah, that's pretty good. You know, it's good. So, but another thing is like, you know, I'd written it a few years ago and sometimes I'm like, I don't have the motivation to go back to something I've done a lot and spend so much time and like dive back into it again. Right. I need some more life to come into it. So then I said, just take it and make this the book. So, and then now that I read it as a book, I feel like I'm able to like read it newly.
Right. You're experiencing it differently. I wonder if you could take the text and then give it to AI and ask it to make multiple versions into a book where it like gave you very different aesthetics associated with the type font and the pictures that are chosen. Like,
well, if you want to do that, if you want to play around with the aesthetics, absolutely. So, that could be, you know, a fun thing you're inspired to do. And then in terms of the
program they used, did they use InDesign or Illustrator or?
I mean, they did it on Canva.
Canva. Okay.
Yeah, this way. So I could also just play with it. But when I was going through it and kind of,
I think the title matters a lot because the thing I'm thinking about, and this is where I don't have comfort in my own background and skill set, but I feel the challenge to lean into this space more. And the metaphor I'm going to offer is fly fishing, since I grew up fishing and loving fishing so much. And fly fishing was especially my thing growing up. I used to just draw pictures of flies, fly fishing, fish all the time. If you're trying to catch a fish and you put an artificial fly, which are things of beauty, under your end of your string, right? Your fishing line. If you have the wrong fly on, and you know there's fish in the water, and you're fishing in a stream or a lake or whatever, they ain't going to go for that fish. They ain't going to go for that fly, excuse me. The fish are just not going to go for the wrong fly. But as soon as you put the right fly on for the right stream, boom, you start getting strikes, and the fish are rising to the surface, and they're trying to get your fly. And I'm saying that because the title of the article and the way the copy edit works and whatever picture you might have, if there's an ad, whether this is a organic article that you're trying to get people to click on, earned media or paid media on social media, whether that's Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or any of these places where you can run paid advertisements, that artificial fly is going to attract energetically a certain type of person who might just click on it.
Yeah, for sure. We gotta get the good title and whatnot.
But what's interesting is you could have the same exact book and have different titles and or different illustrations and or art and potentially be resonating with different kinds of people.
Totally. Yep. For sure. So you got to target that in the demographic piece of it. But I want just to put the marketing side of stuff for a second. One of the things so when I was going through and reading it, that jumped out to me that was surprising that I'd never had really thought about doing it before. And then recognizing, as important or big as it is, and we kind of talk about it, we really don't talk about that much, is the clock. There's a lot of conversation on the calendar, but we really don't talk about the clock. Like, it's kind of a secondary, it's the 12-hour clock and the 1260, and it's kind of there, but it kind of ends there. And so I thought, well, you know what? For now, with this book here, when we're talking about time, we start by breaking down the calendar, but we should probably talk about the clock, at least, equally, just to set it up. So I started digging into the clock, and that's when I started to get some downloads and things that I personally had never thought before, or that we've never talked about before. It's not like I discovered something new, you know what I mean? But for me and us and the general conversation, probably somebody's talking about it somewhere, I don't know, there's more to add to that story of the clock. And when you start to look and essentially time as money, it's third dimensional time and fourth dimensional time. And I've seen some stuff and read some stuff about, like, the clock being a 360-degree circle. It's really like dividing space. And I'd had this thought previously of how the clock, it measures the movement of space more than the movement of time. And I didn't fully understand that, but it was kind of this idea. And the thought being, like, let's say if you just sat and closed your eyes and you meditated and you just went off into maybe you fell asleep, maybe you were in gamma, maybe whatever it was, you were just in your own flow state of meditation. You don't know how many hours or how much time, there's no clock. And when you start, the sun is here. And then when you end, the sun is here. And then you might be like, oh, it was an hour and a half. But the fact that it was an hour and a half or 40 minutes has nothing to do with the experience or the quality of your meditation, and has everything to do with giving you a measurement of how things have moved in space. Because over that period of time, there's that much movement of literal space. And so, but then last night, starting to dig into it a little bit more, it's like, okay, well, let's see. It doesn't have to be broken into 24. So that's one thing to look at. When did we start breaking the day into 24 segments? And then that was actually ancient Egypt, when starting with a base 12. And we could get more into that, but if we move a little bit more into that, just recognizing it could be other numbers. We could break it into anything, but it's basically 12 sections at 30 degrees.
I could be wrong, but I think it goes even older than ancient Egypt to like Sumeria or what came.
It absolutely could be.
Really freaking old. The division of 12 and the division of 24. And the other thing I wanted to mention is Jose Arguelles does get into the clock piece of it in depth in one of his books. And I can't remember the name of which book. I can see the title.
Yeah.
He must have written it right after September 11th because there's a lot of allusions to September 11th in there. And one thing that I do remember is that he went and visited like a clock museum in like Switzerland or Zurich or something like that. And it was going to this museum where he had these massive downloads about time and how it was just made up and arbitrary and artificial.
Interesting.
It was going to a clock museum.
Yeah.
So I'll see if I can dig those up and send them to you for inspiration.
Yeah, but I'll just share more of what came through. So it's not that it isn't real, but it's tracking space, and it tracks third dimensional time. And what we call time in 3D it's not the same substrate. It's not the same fabric. And so we're getting those things mixed up. But then you look at, so you have the clock, but now look at daylight savings. And when you look into time zones, now it starts to get really interesting. So time zones were only created. Do you know when time? And this is where I started to dive in, where I've never dove in. Time zones only came to be in 1885. It's 140 years ago is when we created time zones. Before then, everywhere in the world the time was local solar. So wherever the sun was in the sky at its highest was noon. Once the railroads came to be and there was more planetary connection and people coming together, more commerce, more communication, they needed to create a way to have more efficiency within the commerce. So a lot for like train schedules. It was actually a Canadian train railroad guy. So they signed this world pact, like 23 nations or something, and they divided the earth into 24 sections. And so what that means is that the earth as a planet, according to third dimensional time, according to the clock, which was man-made as a observational measurement tool, the planet is existing. Everyone on the planet, the whole planet, all of humanity is existing in a 24-hour day simultaneously. All at one time, even though in fourth dimensional existence just is. It just is. Now is now. But in the cosmic existence of this exact moment, it's 24 different, it's a full day. It's tomorrow somewhere else on the planet. So based on what we call time, based on the calendar and clock together, it's literally the future right now somewhere else on the planet. And it's literally the past somewhere else on the planet. That's pretty fucking interesting. But the difference then is fourth dimensional time of being is just now. So the clock and the calendar, what we think, oh, it just is, this is time. And now you look at not only do we create it, look at daylight savings. We move it back and forth. We change it. We change it so we can be more efficient in space. Efficiency does not directly correlate to quality. Efficiency has more to do with quantitative metrics than qualitative metrics. I mean, everything influences everything. And so then you look at something like jet lag. And instead of thinking travel time, think about it from 4D, from zoom up, and think of it as existence time. Even in a chronological unfolding, if you are in Tokyo and then you fly to LA, you've existed for 10 hours, but you've actually traveled 7 hours into the past. According to the clock, you've existed for -7 hours, even though you've existed for 10. You've got back those 7 hours. And so starting to see that frame of it and adding, really just describing this in a way to just be like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. At the very least, and unquestionably, creates the awareness within ourselves that we made it up, which is not even in our awareness. That doesn't make it wrong and it doesn't make it bad. But we don't have the relationship to third dimensional time as something that's man created. We don't think of the clock. I mean, yeah, we made clocks, we made time, but we just think it's what is. It's just our measurement of it. Right. And it actually measures space.
Or we think it's objective. And by the way, when you say that it measures space, I'm getting this really brilliant metaphor coming through, which is it's a shadow. It's an echolocation. It's kind of like Plato's cave, where he talks about the fire and the shadows flickering onto the wall of the cave. Like what you're describing as time, it creates these like reverberations outwards, and space is somehow capturing an aspect of that, but it's not the thing.
Yeah, it's like
by drawing a circle and then drawing the circle into 12 or 24 different nodes or pieces of a pizza pie, you might be somehow capturing an aspect of time being reflected, but it's not the thing itself.
Yeah, we're creating quantitative metrics to show the chronological and linear movement of the patterns of space.
This would be a great time for you to do an oracle reading of my kin. So closely related to this subject.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not different. There's a reason why I'm asking right now.
Okay. So the yellow self-existing star in the wave spell of the red serpent. So that would be number 88. Is that correct?
No, 88 is Ayla, my daughter.
No, wait a minute. It would be 108.
Correct.
108. Okay. So the self-existing star we define in order to beautify, measuring art. We seal the store of elegance with the self-existing tone of form. And it's guided by the yellow seed. So we're guided by the power of flowering. And why did you think about this in terms of the conversation with the clock and space and time?
I define in order to beautify, measuring art. This is a tone and a timbre and a kin that is obsessed with these same questions that you're asking about codifying time and turning it into something that's quantifiable. This is the kin that does that.
Yeah, the self-existing tone brings things into form. It's interesting because I always think about the self-existing tone as one of the most of the grounded of the planetary. Actually, that one with planetary, because it's form and manifestation. And so the self-existing tone is about definition and measurement. And something with a definition is form. And I think about not even language, like to define something, to put like defining borders. That is the form necessary. But even with like words, it's kind of the same thing too. If you give a definition to a sound, you're still giving a border of understanding and a frame. And so, and we tend to think about measurement in a third dimensional quantitative capacity, because can you measure your happiness? I mean, you can measure like a frequency or a vibration, and you can give a number potentially. Oh, I'm like a 9, but we tend to have measurement more in terms of the 3D. But so the clock and art, I mean, everything exists in both. Everything exists in both. One, because it's only one. Everything's just one. And there's a expression that expresses itself in just a different matter. Truly, like in 3D, it's a different matter in a different way in this physical form. So, but this piece of adding the clock into the conversation about time, along with the calendar, felt like a really great jolt for me, because it felt additional and it felt new and it felt important. And so I started to work on adding that into the book and writing just a few pieces with that. So it's starting to open it up where it's like, this is definitely a larger book for another time. But the title, so coming back to the title when you were asking, because I want to call out the fact that, it's short. It's not this big, long book, but even having fun with it, the few titles that I was thinking about was either like The Lie of Time, like a bold claim, something provocative, but then also just having the title, What is Time? Feels pretty good, because this one isn't really going deep into the expose and pulling it back. It's presenting. It's like this first one's like kind of curious, and the subtitle that is feeling good is calling it what was it? So it'd just be What is Time? A ridiculously short overview of how we view, like, of how to reframe time and transform your life or something like that.
Well, you just took a really important step there. What is time? It's like such a philosophical thing, which turns me on. But in that last sentence, you just turned it from a third person thing into a second person thing. And I think that's really powerful. Like if you really want to attract people to your message, to your art, to your stories, to your, what'd you call this? A novella, not like a short book?
I'm just calling it like an ebook.
An ebook. You have to make it pertinent to them and their life and their life experience.
Oh, this is the foundation of the teaching of Clay Hebert, who taught the Financially Fit course. And he was, Seth Godin, sat right next to Seth Godin for 6 months. This real marketing kind of guru guy, broken stuff down in a lot of ways. And so he's got a lot of formulas for things. And to that, like his kind of top level teaching is verb your noun. So like, what do you do? How do you describe yourself? I help.
Called a gerund.
I help, people. I'll help you transform your life. I'll help you to, exude confidence, help you to manage your time, to verb your noun, and make it about them. I sent you this, if you got it on Google Photos, I sent you a slideshow from him. So I basically, here, I'll share this with you. Going through the, I made this of options. So a ridiculously short overview or guide, potentially to blow your mind and so here's the verbs and here's the nouns. To redefine time and unlock your potential. So you can kind of play around and mix and match. And I think the one that I'm at now is, ebook title, was it here?
Before we get to the name, because this was the question I asked you last night before we went to bed. And I don't know if I triggered you and you were like offended by what I said, or if you're just tired and just had to move on in that moment. But I was trying to get you to summarize the meaning of the book in a pithy way, which is all to say, what does it then offer to somebody who reads your book, or whether it's this ebook or gets even deeper into your work? What is the transformation that happens when you move from time as consumption to time as art? Like, how do you encapsulate that transformation in a personal sense? So again, we bring it down from the clouds and back to how it affects your life on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. So that is why we made the workbook. So the workbook is more to actually engage in unlocking it and opening it. But what it is, why do we do it? Bob Marley already said it. To emancipate ourselves from mental slavery and to free our minds. It's the way that time exists in the fourth dimension. We are attached, we are serving the master of artificial time. And it's a tremendous cause of self-imposed stress and fear.
I love this. And I want you to unpack that even more with your articulations of this exact meditation, because it's so powerful. And I feel like the movie that you're writing has a climax that's still even climaxing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what happens when we do that? Well, it's the matter of, what do we prioritize? How do we measure and define success in our lives. And right now, we define success based on quantifiable measurements, based on finite measurements. So even the way we talk about it, if somebody has a lot of money, what's somebody going to say about that person? They're really successful. They're full of success. And if somebody was really fucking happy and really peaceful and loved his life and led a great fucking life, but didn't have a lot of money, they'd be like, you know what? He's a good guy. Never had success.
You said something that I've been thinking about the last few days. You just casually in our conversation said something, and you made a distinction between people that seek healing and people that seek success. And I was like, wow, that is such a great divide. Right? Because I know people, and like 3 or 4 of my like closest guy friends are like super successful on paper. And I know at some point in their life, they're just going to go through some type of meta crisis because they haven't really done the healing work. And then I have friends that are like all in the healing space, and they're like healers and healing this and healing that, but they just have not achieved what would be traditionally called, objective metrics of success.
Yeah. And because they both exist, they're not mutually exclusive.
Right. You could be bad at both or great at both or good at one and not at the other.
Yeah. They're not mutually exclusive. However, I would argue, and could back this up with data, that it's impossible to ever hit the quantifiable consumption of anything to guarantee a qualitative state. Meaning, there is no number that says, if I had this much money, I would be happy, peaceful, content, whatever. It's impossible. It could happen or it could not happen. It could make it easier to feel that way or more challenging, depending on how you look at it.
But even if you achieve that number, then you have to keep that. You have to maintain that status of that number. It doesn't go away. You don't just like suddenly go, and then you stop worrying about money.
Yeah, it's a different thing. But now, if you were genuinely really happy, or let's even talking about money, if you felt in the dimension of time, which is a dimension of being, which is a dimension of feeling, which is a dimension of qualitative experience, where we measure our time based on our experience of how we feel. And if you felt like the wealthiest son of a bitch alive, and you're just like, I have everything.
Well, that's what your friend in Uganda, he was so happy to have received $2,000 from you to build a school. Like that was such genuine contentment, and he felt rich in that moment. It wasn't even money for him.
Yeah, totally. But I would argue, and also think that we could show data to prove that qualitative feeling is the foundation of experiencing that in form in 3D. And that's what all of the great teachers talk about in terms of manifestation and the metaphysicals, the channelers. You don't need to, it's not that you'll see it. It's not that you believe it when you see it. It's you see it when you believe it. That is the secret.
Wait,
That is
you lost me. Say that again.
the secret of manifestation is feel the quality of what you want first.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Right.
That quality begets the quantity. The non-physical creates the physical.
So
energy creates matter.
Apply that to gratitude and the gratefulness.
Yeah.
When you tune into being so grateful for the smallest things, then you feel rich. And you actually bring that richness into the quality of your life.
Yeah, but that feel like the feeling of abundance, if that's what you want, or the feeling of love, if you want to have a relationship in your life, you have to feel that love first. That's what allows it to come in. So we have it reversed. We focus on the quantitative to get us the qualitative, but it doesn't work that way. We're supposed to focus on the qualitative to get the quantitative, which is a reflection of our qualitative. Energy creates matter. The non-physical creates the physical. The fourth dimension creates the third dimension. And so the calendar and the clock. So I was thinking about what to title it. And the first thing that came to my mind was rock around the clock. And it's like, no, it's the clock around the rock.
Well, explain the beginning part. Why did you want to call it rock around the clock?
I mean, that's just that came into my mind. I was like, oh, what should I title the section about the clock? And I was like, oh, rock around the clock. And I was like, what? No, it's the clock that's around Earth. It's a cloak. The clock is a cloak. I've used the analogy about the calendar before that said that.
This is good. The book by Jose Arguelles that talks about this stuff is called Time in the Technosphere. And the technosphere is exactly what you just described and showed me with your fingers as the clock around the Earth.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So I've used the analogy before that the calendar or the artificial time is like a greenhouse with no windows. And if you want to go from, we talk about going into 5D and we're in 3D, to get from 3D to 5D, I mean, everything's happening at the same time, but you got to go through 4D. You got to go through time. We're evolving into fourth density. We're moving into a higher dimensional awareness. And so the artificial time blocks us off from living in harmony with just natural cosmic time, as we know Arguelles talks about. So the clock is like, it's like the clock is around the rock as a force field, almost like the airfield from Spaceballs, which I just watched for the first time with the kids, by the way. And
before they vacuum.
Yeah. Suck, suck, suck. And so I'm
this is creeping me out because I've been experiencing the technosphere in my personal life, and I even communicated that to you, that I was feeling like lost in the matrix, multiple times. I've had these like issues where first it was buying tickets online to go see a concert, and then I realized they were scalpers who had like essentially I've been tricked into buying tickets at a much higher price than I should have. And by the way, I bought tickets for $108 each because it was the number 108. So I was like asking myself to learn this lesson. So that was the first thing. But when I tried to complain and ask for my money back, I was just caught in this doom loop of the technosphere. That was like the first story I told you about that. And then the second story was when I got caught like with a Lyft car that was supposed to pick me up, and then it never showed up, and it never told me that it wasn't showing up. And then I called to complain about it, but there was nobody to call. And I realized that it was like this machinery of like no humanness, no human face to talk to or to complain to or to get results resolved from. I just felt, again, trapped in the matrix, trapped in the technosphere, but I was feeling the technosphere, the quality of the technosphere. if that makes any sense. Like I've been experiencing what you're saying in my personal life in the last few weeks, in the last couple of months. So the fact that you're now just happen to be philosophizing about this is just incredibly uncanny to me personally.
I think we're becoming more, and we are the fish that are becoming more and more aware of the water around us.
Right. Totally.
And so I'm excited because I'm going to spend more time with it, but integrating conversations, communications, teachings on the clock into what we're talking about is a big piece. It's a big unlock piece. It's like the other side of the coin to the calendar. And so I could see a lot, and it's still so fresh that it's like thinking us as we speak.
May I offer you a dimension of that you're definitely not thinking about, but when I offer this frame, it's going to like cause some interesting kind of meditations for you. In filmmaking, when you recreate time as a picture, as an image in front of your eyes, right? A traditional cinema camera, a film camera, like celluloid, chemical processes, not digital cameras, a traditional film camera captures time in 24 discrete images per second. And that cadence has this magical cinematic quality to it. And filmmakers and cinematographers love to talk about this because 30 frames per second, which is what video plays back with, especially video on the internet, doesn't have that same feeling of magicness that cinema somehow captured when we would watch movies in a dark box with light moving through a projector onto a screen. And we still don't know why the eye or the human mind perceives motion when you see 24 discrete images. Because if you only see 3 or 5 or 8 images every second, the image starts to feel staccato, like jolty. And if you get 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 frames per second, it loses the luster of magic that we call cinema at a certain point. It might look more hyper real, but it doesn't have that same quality of being kind of romantic. So I'm saying all of this because it is a total bizarre, weird, crazy coincidence that that number 24. Did you get electrocuted?
Holy shit. I got so electrocuted.
Oof.
So, it's like the most I've ever been electrocuted by this thing. I thought it was off, and I didn't like accidentally hit it. I like grabbed it to pull it off my leg. So it's, yeah. You can continue. Whew.
Well, think about time as, the clock, but also think about how we recreate time when we create media and or stories and or
that's it.
Pictures.
That's interesting that it's 24. So I definitely think even like with that, I see a larger, 150 plus page book on time. That goes deeper into all these things. That is really like plants a flag. I see this ebook. This ebook is like the one that like starts providing language and context and frame for people to just understand the differences. And definitely not to say that like to stop using artificial time or to stop using three-dimensional time. That's not what it's about. It's similar to Western medicine. You don't need to stop ever using it, but know what it's for. It's not for healing. It's for treating symptoms. Sometimes it's for really serious things, at least the medicine. What is the clock and the calendar for? It's for efficiency of navigating space. That's what it's for.
Habermas, who's a famous philosopher who I happen to read a lot of his books and write a lot of essays about him, called that type of reason, he called it instrumental reason, or like teleological reason. It has like, it's trying to be efficient. And he compared that to a different type of reason that he called communicative reason. And that's a reason to create understanding. Understanding as in like, what's the point of talking? What's the point of communication? The point of communication is to create understanding. It's for us to resonate with each other in dialogue.
Yeah, that's another great frame of how I could see something to pull upon in the larger book of the differences, something like that. You could look at things like Chronos and Kairos and really start to break it down. But when we do this, is how we are enslaved to the artificial time. It drives our lives. It's our master. That's what he meant when he said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but yourself can free your mind. Have no fear for atomic energy. None of them can stop the time. None of them can stop the time. And so we can utilize it as a tool. The calendar and the clock are artificial. Artificial meaning made by man, not made by God. And it's a tool so we can more effectively and efficiently navigate communally in space, where we can sync up in terms of, and it's really about it's the communication, commerce, communal, those pieces of it. And so when we want to do things that require that type of communication, navigation, wonderful. But for example, you don't need a clock or a calendar to communicate with somebody telepathically. That just exists now. You know, even this technology, even right now, according to the clock and the calendar together, right now, I am talking to you in the past. And you are talking to me in the future. I am existing in your future according to the clock and the calendar. Because if that's all we had to measure, I exist right now at 12:30 a.m. on Sunday. And for you, it's 10:30 p.m. on Saturday. And so we think, while it's a tool and it's helpful, and because we can sync up, we know when to both be at the same place in space. But we can't allow that to be the barometer of how we define our success and how we measure the quality of our lives. So understanding the difference and incorporating fourth dimensional time and that type of awareness, and prioritizing the experiential quality over our life as opposed to the consumptive quantitative metrics, is how we liberate ourselves and graduate from the samsara wheel of suffering.
Have you ever seen the movie or the musical Rent?
Yeah.
Is it not about the same exact thing?
I don't remember. I saw it a long time ago.
Well, it's called Rent because it's about a bunch of artists that live in New York City and they can't pay their rent. So it has this it's already talking about money. And then I don't know if it's the most famous song, but like one of the key or core songs of the musical asks the question, like 525,600 minutes.
Oh yeah.
How do you measure time? And then the refrain of the chorus is, what about
everyone love? Has AIDS.
Only one person. What about love? That's the answer to the question. What about love? What if we measure time as love? Is that what you're saying? Or is it different? Or is it just the same thing, just said differently?
Yeah, well, if measuring time as love is in this measurement, if you want to look at love as the substrate fabric of existence, then that's that type of love. But if you want to look at love as a qualitative state of being that is one of other options, then it's one of the expressive states possible of fourth dimensional time. So the point of that being, though, is not how much money did I make today? It's how much love did I make today? How long did I talk for? How long was the conversation? How enjoyable was the conversation? How impactful? How much did I spend? How much impact was my spend? Or how was my experience around it? And bringing that in, and it's actually a way for us to be more successful in 3D and more successful in the quantitative, because energy creates matter. So
and the reverse is true. And I think that's important to point out, because you're creating dualisms with your thinking, and then saying that we should prioritize one over the other. But it's actually a field that works in multiple directions, or both directions. And it's the trinary logic that transcends and includes the binary logic, I think, which is the ultimate, I don't want to say solution or answer or reframe, but that's also important to keep in mind. I don't know if that made any sense.
Kind of, but
it's not qualitative versus quantitative. Qualitative is not better.
No, I never said better.
Right. I'm trying to clarify to the viewer or listener who might be taking that away from the conversation. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
But it's just me and you talking.
Right.
Yeah.
But even looking at your chart, and I thought about this from the very first time I saw your chart, where you put quantitative on one side and qualitative on the other. One's the inside and one's the outside.
We're clearly defining the distinction that they're two different things, and for us to untangle them, and for us we don't have to stop. That's what I said. We don't have to stop using the quantitative, but you can only serve one master.
But the master is not qualitative versus quantitative. It's the transcend and include both of them. It's the trinary logic as opposed to the binary logic.
But if there is, in sequential order of creation and manifestation, that is what the secret is that you need to feel it first to be able to create it in form.
If you're moving from energy into matter, but you can move from matter into energy too.
Yeah. So I got to go check on my kids. They're both having, I just realized the time we're having a sleepover now. Do you want to hang on a couple minutes?
Sure.
Okay. $525,600 minutes. How do you measure your life? What about
Love. What about love? What about love? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yo.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, the kids are having a sleepover and I forgot and I haven't checked on them in a couple hours. Just want to make sure they were like actually going to sleep. Or I mean they're all up, but yeah. Let's see. Okay. So anyway, that's one thing. So all that piece with time, the clock, the book, the workbook, wanted to share that with you. And then so you can see too, like as we're looking at, you start thinking about like things to do or what needs to be done or the things being created or what could holistic human be or all these different pieces. So
do you want me to share the screen?
Yeah. Just to show you. So with these digital products, this is the first digital product here with the ebook. But then it's where is it? I want to show you the workbook. So this is the foundation for the workbook. Here's the 13 different pieces from the chart. And then there's just writing specifically about that piece itself. There's a journal prompt, a reflection to the journal prompt, 3 questions, an integration activity, and then just a mantra. And so there's 13 of those. And so easily 3 pages, maybe 4, depending on how it's spaced. So as a starting point, you're looking at a 39 to 52 page workbook. And then a little bit of stuff. So it's like, it's something substantive. So the plan is to give away the ebook. I'm going to create content. Well, so there's the ebook, but you can do like the free workshop, the masterclass, the teaching, that kind of thing on time. Have the ebook to give away for free, and then the workbook as an item to purchase. And that's going to be the first low ticket type of product to sell. And then
help me understand that piece of it. Do you see there's more value in the workbook, therefore people should pay for that thing? Or also, is this just, you said it's a low price point, right? It's not $1,000 course or something.
No, it's like, $17 or something. So somebody who's engaged and interested in the conversation around time and asks, it's like, wow, and wants to learn more about it. And then this here, where is it at? The chart, wherever the chart is, I can't find it now. But the chart in and of itself is like a foundational offering to understand the difference between time is money and time is art. And then the workbook expands on the chart for somebody to actually be able to go through and do the process.
What is the thing you want people to feel and or experience after they go through either the contemplation of reading your work or actually do the workbook?
I want them to step in to first of all, to have the awareness that third dimensional time and fourth dimensional time, their time is money, the time is art, are different things. I want them to initially just have that awareness, but from that awareness, shift to be able to focus on the qualitative in life as, again, only serving one master. So the way that the article ends, it says, if you are reading these words right now, then you have a profound opportunity to be a contributing member of humanity's collective shift of consciousness in which we reconnect with the natural world and the cosmos, reconnect with each other and all life, and most importantly, reconnect with our divinity and our true self. Shifting the way you experience time does not mean that you need to immediately stop using a clock and calendar, because there are very likely dependencies in your life, meetings and appointments and bills, etc., that require you to adhere to this system. You can continue to honor your schedule while also expanding your perception of and relationship to time by simply tuning in more to your being as opposed to your doing. Focus more on what you can create as opposed to what you can consume. Be fully present when you engage with other people. Immerse yourself in experiences without mental distraction of what happened before or what you need to do next. Tune in to the resonance of your heart and allow that to guide your actions. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "There is nothing more tragic than to find an individual bogged down in the length of life, devoid of breath." Breath. So by measuring our lives based on its breadth as opposed to its length, we will be adhering to the true nature of time while revealing our fears around it to be based on false pretenses. We ultimately do not have control over the quantity of life we live, but we do have the choice in determining the quality. And if you're asking yourself when you should unwrap the gift that is a new relationship to time, consider that there is reason we say that there is no time like the present.
That quote from MLK, and even the way you were stumbling through the pronunciation of it, was so powerful because it also sounds like the word breath.
Yeah, exactly. That's when I said it. I was like, oh, it sounds like breath, but it is and the word breath is the word breath just with a D in it.
Right. I never put that together.
Me
and
neither.
By the way, the word for breath and the word for soul in so many languages are the same word or almost exactly the same word. And when you said this out loud, you reminded me that I really wanted to share something with you that I found. Yesterday? Last night? Time's a blur. This one was powerful for me. It was an aha, but it was such an obvious aha, and then it was just like next level aha.
The rabbi says the psychedelics are the elephant in the room in Jewish text.
Yes. And I can't believe I didn't know this. This particular take on it. This is an Orthodox Jewish rabbi who became enthralled with the mystical whatever. And I don't know if it was through using psychedelics or through tuning into his breath, because a lot of this article talks about breath as being the portal into these other dimensions. But then he talks about in the Bible, in the part where they talk about the ritual that we now refer to as Yom Kippur, where the high priest, whose name we are both named after, would go into the Holy of Holies. They would bring with them incense, which I knew this. But this article talks about how the incense came from the acacia tree. Acacia tree? How do you pronounce it? I don't know. But that the acacia tree had DMT in it. And the insinuation from this guy's interpretation of the sacred text is that the priest was getting high while going into the Holy of Holies. Which that alone blew my mind. And then time went by, and then I thought about it again, and I remembered that the same moment where they went into the Holy of Holies and they conferred with the Ark of the Covenant, they were also working with the Urim Vitumim. And then I realized the oracle could be connected to psychedelics. It was the first time I've ever put that together.
Interesting. Dude.
And we were just talking about this like a couple days ago. I don't know if you remember that. About psychedelics. And like, of course, it probably inspired Judaism in some historical way that we can't quite put our fingers on.
I mean, you talk about it being hidden in plain sight, how obvious it is. Moses talked to a burning fucking bush.
Right.
Burning.
Yeah, the article also mentioned that exact.
That's what I just happened. That's what it jumped out as. Adama. Interesting.
But your word, when you stumbled on the word breath, that's what made me think of this article, because they talk about how he's not getting people high on psychedelics in his seminars. He's connecting people to their breath as a portal to this interdimensional beingness.
Yeah.
And that almost makes me think that there's something that for you to unlock by just allowing people to connect to their breath as a way to experience the qualitative versus the quantitative.
You know, I've been kind of short lately with the kids, whether it's justified or not. Like, I don't necessarily want to be. And I've been working through that. And Nate and I have been having a little bit of challenge. Our communication isn't ideal. It's not horrible. But we're working through our stuff, you know, and I've told him, like, dude, I've never been 45 and you've never been 12. We're figuring this out together. But this morning, I went and picked them up from their grandma's, and like, I was going to take them to martial arts, and they were late to the car because he had to help her carry some stuff. So I was already a little frustrated sitting in the car, like, why is he moving boxes now? We're going to be late. And then he gets to the car and he's like, doesn't feel good. He's like, oh, I don't have any energy and I had to move these boxes. And I was like, I immediately got frustrated. I'm like, yeah, dude, you moved boxes, big deal. You can do martial arts, you know, you don't have to make such a big deal about this. But he was like, no, you don't understand. I woke up, I have a headache, all this stuff. And it just created a lot of tension. And we're just back and forth. And then I was just trying, like, anyway, we get to martial arts. He's sitting there, hazy, goes, you know, we're a little bit late. They're not even changed. And he doesn't want to go. And I'm like, all right, dude, fine. I'm going to cancel your play date today then. If you don't feel good and you can't go to martial arts, then you can't have a play date, you know? Like, it's like, no, fine, I'll go. And it just opened up this whole thing. And we're both pretty frustrated. And then he kind of opens up and he's just like, man, well, he's like, I don't want to go, but I don't feel good, but I don't want to disappoint you because I know you'll be disappointed and all this. And I'm like looking at him. I'm sitting in the front seat and he's like kind of a passion. And I'm just like looking at myself. I'm like, fuck, man. Even if I'm valid, whatever, it's like your son is hurting right now. And he's telling you that he doesn't want to disappoint you. And I'm having a tough time. You know, sometimes I feel like, you know, he can be a bit expansive and it's like, just, okay. And so I didn't know what to say. And I don't want to fight with him anymore. And so he's in the space and I'm like, And so I didn't say anything. I just put on this meditative song that I listen to quite a bit. It's an instrumental. And I just put it on in the car. And then I just went into, all right, dude. All right. Just come to your breath. And we just started going into none of the story. It's like, okay, listen. So, I want you to put your finger when you breathe. I want you to kind of, from your mind, right now, your mind's in a lot of places. The only thing you need to focus on is take wherever your focus is, your awareness, just put your fingers in the middle of your chest and just put your awareness there. Just focus your eye, your outside eye there. And so we went through this whole thing. I'm just sort of talking and whatever's coming through and the breathing. And it was amazing. It was incredible. And then after we kind of went through it, and I just checked in and said, how are you feeling? And, was able to just be really like self-reflective. And I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was like these really kind of profound things. And like, I just bring all that up because you talk about coming back to the breath and the breath. And that's exactly what happened today. I was fucking caught up in my head. And then my son, and I've seen both my kids reflecting to me my state of mind, and I've been getting frustrated with them. But when I become aware that they are reflecting to me, then coming back to the breath of, hold on a minute. Okay. Let me not be afraid of the faces that I'm making in the mirror. So that somatic experience too is such a huge part of it. That's part of the holistic human piece of it. And it interplays, but the connection between breath and breadth is pretty incredible. And another thing on breath is Bashar talks about, there's like 7 things that humans need. And in order, number 1 is breath, air. You don't get that, it's the quickest, you'll die very soon. Second is water. Third is food. Then, I think like relationship and meaning. And so this breath, the idea of breath, that first piece of it, it really is the substrate. So there is probably something as well, if you think about time is art, or time is money, or fourth dimensional time, or third dimensional time, or natural time, or artificial time, or all of these ways. We measure our breaths in terms of the quantities, but what is the quality of our breath? The depth of it, or is it deep or shallow? Pieces of that. So it's all pretty interesting. It's all really interesting. But having this here, just even for you, thinking about like, how do you want to spend your days? What do we want to build? What do we want to create? And then spent most of the time with Brian. He just went into like basically doing an intake of me.
Mm-hmm.
So fine, that's cool. But we didn't really get into like any of the work or creation itself. It's like, what's your work-life balance 1 through 10? Like, where do you want to be in 3 years? So, but I have been very active in, putting these things together. And so if I'll show you here again, so one track, so the timepiece is the first thing we're going to have. So the ebook, the time, but there's so much to make around it. It's just taking the next step. The next step is making the ebook. Great. How do you distribute it? How do you share it? Doing a workshop, doing a free class, like all of that needs to be created. There's a whole world of creation. And then these are other items. So the creating an evergreen course based on these 7 pillars, the foundational pieces of everything is energy, so on and so forth. Creating an evergreen course about life is art. And I see these being like, and
I
each one.
I like pillars more than immutable truths.
Yeah. Okay. It's good. Pillars feels pretty good. And so, but I want to make a course around this, around teaching these 7 pillars. I want to make a course around teaching life is art. I want to offer a 260-day daily dream spell program. I want to relaunch the Joyful Warrior Code as the Grateful Warrior as a 13-week live cohort program. And then could be group coaching, one-on-one coaching. I have the ebook made on time or in the process, along with the workbook to sell. All of this can be part of the holistic human offering, and all of it is about how do we help people become holistic humans.
Mm-hmm.
And the holistic human is an umbrella underneath which everything pertains, because it's all part of the whole. So in terms of like making these things, creating these things, strategizing these things, producing these things, selling all of the things, that they need time and energy and intelligence and work and stuff of all of that. So there's a lot of opportunity for you to support making these. And then a lot of it really falls into the wheelhouse of what you do. You know, if we're going to be making videos or making a course or shooting content or things of that nature. And that
just take a step back, because I just want to see the forest through the trees quickly with you.
Yeah.
What is the one thing you want people to learn from you or to experience from you that encapsulates all of this diversification of these many mantras and moods?
Yeah, to reconnect to their divinity. We're just plugging people back into the tree.
Just to come back to their breath.
Well, some things is to come back to but they're different. We're showing different sides of the elephant. It's to all come back to God. It's just to come back to the one. Ultimately, if you have to say what's the one thing is the one. They all have different aspects of it. It's all about helping support the evolution of our consciousness, moving into a higher density, a higher dimensional reality.
What's the most important thing that you could do to help people reconnect to God right now? Like the next thing, you know what I mean? Like out of all the things, all the digital products, all the courses, like if you could offer the best medicine right now, which one would you prioritize? Or which one has the most energy around it in this moment because you feel lit up by it?
I mean, I'm doing the time one. So the time has the most energy because I want to get that completed, but all of these have life, but I'm right now, I'm just doing them on my own. So
if somebody was to pay $1,000 for something that you were offering, what would that one thing be?
Well, this breaks things down to be created into different price points. So this isn't about just the one thing. This is about creating the whole portfolio of things.
I understand the portfolio. I'm asking you to sequence and prioritize, which is not easy to do. Like, because you can't give all things to all people all at once. You can give one thing to one person one at a time. What would be the first thing that you would want to teach or bring?
that's what we're the first. It's time. That's the one that's being produced now. That's the first one that's being created. That's the one that's the workbook and the ebook. That is the one in production that is going to go live first. That's going to be like the free giveaway. That is the first one.
What's next?
That's kind of figured, like, haven't got there yet to know.
But that's why I'm asking it right now.
So, the Dream Spell is going to start March 25th. So that one has a start time.
Timeliness to it. Do you want to focus the energies to like once the ebook is done, which is brilliant? Do you want to pivot into focusing on that March 21st as a way to onboard people in that Dream Spell?
They need. There's a lot that has to get done at the same time, because it's not just like, oh, I made this time thing, now let me shift off of it. It's also creating strategy and sequencing and content about that. There's more that needs to be created. There's like, there's no way to create the whole, the whole map at this point.
I don't want the whole map. I just want the next thing.
Then
you love infinity. I'm asking for a concrete next thingness.
I know, but I don't know how many more times to say it. I'm making the time, and then I don't have to. There's work to be built out on time. The time, there's the book, there's the workshop, there's promoting it, there's classes, there's things of that nature, while also sequentially getting ready for the Dream Spell to launch on March 25th. So those things are the most immediate. Now, it doesn't mean that the other things don't get worked on or don't get done or don't have attention potentially, but that is the right now, and the next are those things.
The right now is what versus the next is what?
Is the book, the time. The book, the ebook, and the workbook on time is right now. That's what's.
And then the next thing is the Dream Spell.
March, yes. And March, so that's going to start March 25th, because I want to start it on Keen 1.
Right.
So with that, getting that set, there's also like, okay, it's not just like, there's a whole thing. It's not just, let's put a landing page. Where's it going to be? What is it going to be? It needs to get created, built out, the delivery, all of those pieces of that program of the Dream Spell has to be created.
Okay, so let's pivot into that. And I know you told me about what it is before, but just remind me again, as if you've never told me before, what the idea behind that program
is to have a group around the world, ideally, or basically just to play along 260 days. Every day, people will get the energy, the contemplation of that day, the affirmation of that day, and probably like an integration activity or just some activity or something.
Is this going to be using the work from the Soultivation book, or are you going to be doing it anew?
Yeah, it'll be the contemplations that are already written.
Okay.
And if I want to rewrite them, I can, but essentially.
You're in real time just channeling of the energetics of the day is so powerful.
Maybe I'll end up just recording it that morning. I don't know. But some of these things will unfold as the path gets there, but those are the most immediate things. But while also building out as I'm creating content on Instagram and building that content, creating a funnel or communication so people can come into my world, where the first thing they're going to be able to get is that ebook on time. The first thing they're going to be able to purchase as a product is the workbook on time. And they can work with me one-on-one, and there will be ways to have that opening for coaching. And then ideally we'll be able to create a larger group to do group coaching, which essentially is like weekly calls. Anybody can join or not, mid-level monthly kind of thing. And with that, potentially having a community, but we'll get up there. but doesn't have to have the community, but a kind of open weekly teachings or even bi-weekly teachings. And then knowing that these other, and then, building up just more social validation, speaking and of sorts, but then seeing this as there is like a product queue, and there's more too. Think about the books and various things.
Do you have any desire to teach the 7 pillars over a live course, like a 13-week course or whatever it might need to be, to then let it become an evergreen teaching? Or do you just want to create it as an evergreen teaching and never teach it live?
I'm open to it. I think when we get to diving into that in detail, we could figure it out. It could go either way. But essentially the evergreen courses are the like $50, $100, $200 courses. The live cohorts are the $1,000, $1,500.
Right.
ones.
But you could offer the 7 pillars one as a live course, charge $1,000, and then let the real timeness of the teaching and the cohort also bring back some layers of just visceral, raw awesomeness of the teachings and the community of it all, and then turn it into an evergreen course.
Could be. Yeah, it could be. Once we break that down a little bit, maybe it's a masterclass. Maybe it's a free workshop. Maybe it's a 2-day event. So that'll reveal itself with time. But, you talk about wanting to bring things in form. It isn't just things like there's a lot of form here. All of this here is essentially my HQ. So all the videos.
What program or app is this? Or
this is all on Notion.
Notion, okay.
Which is like a second brain. It's pretty amazing what how we can do it here. So there's lots of here. There's the newsletters here, creating. So we built a website, and that needs to continue to be like where we sell things and sorts.
Oh, here's another question. What is your killer app or your killer product or your hit song?
I don't know. I'm not really sure how to answer that question.
Well, I'm not saying you have to know. It could surprise you. You know what I mean? I just want to, like, even thinking about that, it's not about like the one I'm making the things that I'm making. It'd be great if they're all hits, but the market will, I don't know. So, so this is what it looks like. This is what I'm working on. This is the queue of pieces. This is how it's playing out. This is the sequence. These are the things that I need support to bring to life and into form. So, there's a lot that needs to be done for these things to come into existence. Or there's just one thing at a time that you get to do perfectly joyfully, not overwhelmed by all the things, just one thing at a time.
Even if it is one thing at a time, yes, it could be joyful. Yes, one at a time, but it's still, it needs to get done. So, I can't do it all by myself. And so that's where I'm, with getting support. So we've been thinking about,
I'm offering support right now to you, but there's resistance.
Well, but I'm not we were talking about, I wanted, like, it's not resistance, but
it feels like resistance when I qualitatively feel it. It feels like resistance.
It's frustration. I have frustration.
Why? Follow the frustration. Why? Follow the irritation. Why?
I think the things that I'm looking to share with you or get interest, you're reflecting it or coming in a way that was not my intention of wanting to go. The direction keeps veering. Like I want to like connect with you on this, and then it keep getting asked questions or pulled veering here in another way. And so that's a frustrating experience for me.
Mm.
You know,
where do you want to go that's different than the line of questioning that I'm asking?
I'm interested in wanting to know, like, so we've been talking about this is in terms of like, well, great, started a company, Holistic Human. What are we going to make? You have time now, or potentially, or what are the work going to be? To know if you want to give your time to helping make these things. If you want to help produce these things, if you want to help to bring form to these things, if you want to work with me, partner with me to
all of the questions I've asked you today have been to help you make these things, but there's resistance.
These are questions that are great questions to ask. Absolutely. But I'm interested to know for you what your interest is to spend your time to help to produce these things.
I'm doing it right now.
Okay.
There's not another. There's not an other. The questions I'm asking you are about sequencing and prioritizing the thing you want to create.
I will say too, that was a little frustrating. I felt like I told you, you kept asking. I told you 3 or 4 times, like, this is.
You love to say all the things.
No, I said I'm working time. That's the first piece. Working on time, making the ebook, making the workbook. This is the first piece. It's the first launch. So now creating the ebook.
What's missing? Because I don't feel anything missing, but you have this like feeling that something's missing. What's missing?
What's missing? So for me, I'm trying to frame to get these things made of who I'm going to work with to help make them in the capacity that I know I need that help and support.
So you want support.
I would love, ideally, it'd be great to have partnership where it's like, hey, we started a company, let's make stuff. What should we make? And I'm saying, well, I'm making all of these things. So do you want to make these with me or not? And if not, that's okay. But this is what I'm making. And I don't know exactly what, but there's a lot that to come from it. And these aren't the only things that need to be made or would want to be made. And there's things that you want to make. And that's what I was, sharing. But there's a cadence. There's a piece of what to work from. Part of it is it's like, well, what is the sequence?
Well, that's why I was asking the questions, meaning of the things you listed, which one are you going to make next? And I understand the ebook is coming into form. So I'm already asking the next question, assuming that finalizes into something that you're happy with.
But even once it's made, it's not just like I made, there's still, there's things to make around it and of it. It's a living, breathing thing. It's like having a baby.
What do you want to create next? Is it the 7 pillars course? That seems really interesting. Is it the process one? Do you want to dual track and make them together? Because they kind of refract off of each other.
After launching the Dream Spell program? In terms of
They feel different to me. The Dream Spell program feels longer and also more of a daily thing, whereas the courses feel like they could be like a 13-week thing, or even, as you said, a 2-day thing.
So but this is where I'm saying they could be worked on at the same time. But like the Dream Spell has a hard start date. That's got to start on March 25th.
So would you like to not do any of the other things and focus on the Dream Spell? And that doesn't mean you can't work on them in the background. You can, and they will refract off of each other. They will inform each other into existence. But where do you want to place your focus and your attention, your energy? And when does this become something that you're doing with people, like the people that you're meant to teach or entertain or participate in a cohort with?
As soon as I have something to offer, I want people to engage with it. So this all part of the larger plan. This is the first piece, is like, if people engage and you want to have something to share with them, something of value, something content something to give away for free. Sign up for my newsletter, sign up and like get this free ebook type of thing. So providing value, providing content. So it's completing, but once we get the workbook and the ebook completed, there's also still energy to go into that to help flower that, to keep that plate spinning. And then another plate spinning is the Dream Spell, which is that daily piece. And while that's happening, making the evergreen courses, as well as repackaging the Grateful Warrior Coach, all funneling into also a funnel for coaching, and still creating the content and with the show and the newsletter and building that. So there's a lot of.
But you love lots of things, and you love infinite creation, all this stuff. But I want you just to go away from infinity and towards concreteness with me, and just tell me what you want to offer or teach next that has a price, like a real price to it. And if you don't want to charge anything because you just
I do. You're saying you keep saying that, but I keep telling you, I don't understand. The Dream Spell is the next thing to sell. And
how much does it cost?
We have to figure. I have to get in. That's what I'm saying. That's the next product. That's the
next. We're doing it right now. How much does it cost?
So
does it cost anything, or is it free?
No, everything costs. Everything costs something. These are the programs to build. They all cost something,
except for the free.
Except the ebook. Yes,
but they don't all cost something. That's why I asked the question. You're getting frustrated.
I am. Everything you're looking at.
Aaron, come back to breath with me.
I am frustrated. I think I kind of want to go, to be honest. I'm feeling frustrated. All of the courses that I showed you, that we're not looking at anymore. Everything on that list, the 7 Pillars course, Life is Art course, Dream Spell program, Grateful Warrior Code,
which one are you doing next? Which one are you putting the energy into next?
I can't say. I don't understand. The dreams. I've already said it 8 times. The Dream Spell.
No, you haven't.
The Dream Spell.
Frustrated in a way that's like, no, I'm asking you a simple question.
The Dream Spell. The Dream Spell. That's the next course to go up. You keep asking me that. I literally don't understand. You keep asking what's next. The Dream Spell. It's starting March 25th.
How much does it cost?
It costs $260.
That's a great price point.
Yeah, costs $1 a day.
What do they get for $260?
You get a daily message of email or text of contemplation, affirmation, and just like a integration or activity for the day. You get to be in a group of everyone else who's in it, a cohort, to talk about it. And
the group meets on Facebook or on a different.
Got to figure it out. That's something that needs to get determined.
Okay, no, that's why I'm asking these questions.
So my thought is, if potentially creating a circle group that can be the home of everything.
I've heard of Circle, but I've never seen it. I don't know.
This is everything that I was doing working with Fit for Service. All the work that I did with Circle. It was all, but Circle's such a great platform. You can host courses, classes, workshops, groups. It's an everything kind of thing. And even the different courses and classes can have their own paywalls. So it could be free to join your community, but then you see all the free stuff. And then there's a course or a program or something that's an access point that you have to pay for. So there's paywalls within your private community, which is awesome.
I want to check it out. As soon as you said it cost $260, I could start to feel it as a product, like an actual offering. There was like a shift there. And then you said, oh, you get your free daily affirmation. And there's like, oh, I start to understand the value prop, right? Because if you can tell me how to sell it, if you can sell it to me now.
I'm not trying to, but I'm not trying to sell it to you.
But I want you to. I want you to sell it to me, because then it's an offering that you're putting forward to me that I'm trying to understand the value of.
But I think you're missing the point. I don't want to sell you on this.
I'm
not trying to sell you on this.
Eran, it's hypothetical. It's just to understand it's the act of creating a product or an offering. If you don't like the commercialization language, it's how do we turn this into an offering, and what is the value of the offering? That's what I'm just trying to understand. And as soon as you started to talk out loud, there was a shift. I could feel the energy of it being an offering to a community of people all of a sudden.
So but I already said that like 3 times. You can go back and watch the recording. That's where my frustration's coming. You've been asking me the same thing. I've been repeating it over and over, dude.
No, you are lost right now. You are going like a fish in like getting this frustrated state of mind. These aren't easy questions. They don't have easy answers. But the reason why I'm framing them and asking them is because it's unclear. And if it's unclear to me, then it's going to be unclear to other people too. And when I ask the question and you get frustrated with me, that's not helpful. And don't get me wrong, like this is part of the process. Like I'm glad we're doing this right now, and I'm glad we're live streaming this. This is the process.
There's a time and a place to get into the depth of the process, of different aspects of it. In terms of, you asked me probably, dude, go back and watch the recording. How many times you asked me, what's next? What's next? What's the sequence? And how many times I told you the time is first, the dream spell is March 25th. The time piece is first, the dream spell is March 25th. That's the next thing. But what's the next thing?
I didn't understand what the thing was that you were offering. And maybe it's clear in your head, but it wasn't clear to me. That's why I was asking for clarification.
We just go back and watch the tape. Okay. Like there's definitely some frustration from like not.
But why did there need to be frustration?
Maybe
I didn't ask for frustration. You brought it to the table. Okay. I don't want to be frustrated right now.
Neither do
I just want to have a simple conversation.
I don't want to be frustrated either.
But I'm not bringing frustration to the table.
I felt frustrated because I kept answering the same question over and over again, and that was very frustrating. I felt frustrated by that. So
is that why you felt frustrated, or was there something irritating you that you were bringing to the table and then responding with frustration? Because I was asking for points of clarification. Like if I didn't understand something and I asked a question as a point of clarification, wouldn't you just want to explain to me in a clear way?
But
why would you then get frustrated at me?
I was frustrated from the repetition. The repetition was frustrating because I kept you asked me the same thing over and over again. And I kept telling you the answer, and you kept saying, no, but what's the next thing? I was like, but what are you doing right now?
All these things.
But okay, dude, I watched the tape. Okay. I don't know what else to say. You kept asking me the same question over and over, and I was giving you direct answers, and you kept asking me, and that was a very frustrating experience. So I was like, so when somebody says, but what about right now? Well, this is what I'm doing now, working on this. And what's the sequence? Well, this is the next one starting March 25th. Yeah, but what are you doing next? I just told you March 25th.
Like I said, when you started to actually describe the offering in concrete language, there was a shift. So I wasn't understanding something and you were getting frustrated with me over and over again. I was trying to ask points of clarity.
Okay.
For the purpose of doing the work. But then you kept saying, I want to do the work. But I was trying to do the work in real time.
I think maybe, I think you and I have just different opinions of what's the work that needed to get done right now. I think the work that you were trying to do is not the work I was trying to do. So we had different.
You wanted something from me. Like you wanted me to agree to help you. But this is me helping you.
I'm not asking you to. Okay. Definitely missing the mark here a bit. So I don't know.
I had a breakthrough. I had a breakthrough when you started to explain to me in a concrete way what your vision of an offering was for the 260 days. That started to feel like a product to me that I could understand how to help shape it or guide it or work on it to bring it into existence. It felt good. And it felt like the answer to the question I was asking that was getting you frustrated. It's one thing if you say it, but maybe if you say it in a slightly different way, then all of a sudden, aha, I can understand it, right? Because the 260, when you described it as you pay $260 for it, and here's what you get, that's the process of bringing a product to market. And that's what I'm trying to help you do in this particular moment.
So
get concrete about what are the products you're bringing to market so we can sequence and prioritize and figure out how to work on them together.
I get that. Okay. I don't know. I don't want to belabor this point, but if you're interested, go back and watch the tape. It's all recorded. So, I understand the idea of getting into the product and breaking it down. So that's fine.
When you've mentioned being frustrated with Cole or having trouble working with the ad agency or having that be successful for you, are you feeling a similar type of frustration or is this a different frustration?
Different. It's a different relationship. It's a different conversation. The frustration I have with Cole is that timelines aren't getting met. And that I'm paying him and to do a service with him and his team. And the timelines that I'm told things will get done are not getting done in those times. And final products are pretty good. And I like, all right, but not at all on the deliverables. It doesn't feel like the exchange is being met. Sometimes I feel like even some things feel like, are you telling me the truth? Like I'm questioning if I'm being told the truth, which is never good. And then some of the work too that comes back was like, the big thing is the timelines, more than anything. That's not what the frustration is here. So let
me summarize what I think would be good for you as your friend, as a partner. When Richard Rudd talked about creating the Gene Keys, he didn't have a big holistic vision of how it all fit together. He just created a course for what he was feeling energized about in that moment. And he focused on that one thing. And then he moved on to the next thing. And then he moved on to the next thing. And then at one point he had this like aha moment where he realized how they all fit together.
But that's what I'm trying to do. That's what there's other things that are laid out. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The thing right now is the time thing. That's what's most alive. That's what's being created. These are all things that are in the space. And I don't know if the 7 pillars or the grateful warrior is going to come first, and the coaching can come together. Those things are going to get revealed. I said that as the path unfolds. So what you're saying now is actually, I find that to actually be the opposite of what you were asking me before. But I do have the clarity that I'm working on the timepiece, working on the book, working on the ebook. And the next course, the program, the first one to launch is March 25th, which is the daily Dream Spell program. And the details and the specifics of those have to be finalized, but it is a daily program, which we've already talked about.
So that's the thing to work on next.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, but that was my answer when you asked me the first time. That's and then he asked me like 5 more times. So whatever I'm bringing, I'm bringing it all. It's my trigger. That's very triggering.
How do people sign up for it?
Okay, I don't know, man. We got like this. I'm not there yet to figure that out. But listen. I'm not right now on this conversation. Is not in the space to actually get into the actual doing, like figuring that out for those questions, those pieces of it.
Let's follow our own teachings for a second. But we don't have to answer that question I just asked. But let's drop back in together so that we can find the resonant space of harmony. That would be a good thing to do before we leave the call. Like, how do we come back to our breath? How do we come back to understanding?
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing that nobody watches this. I would never fucking want to buy any courses from me with this attitude. You kidding?
But you know what I love about this? We don't need to have the veneer of like superhuman guru. Like, this is what real life is actually like for a lot of people, myself included.
Yeah. But there is, so there's definitely like, but for real, dude, like, we act as each other's mirrors. Whatever frustrations I'm bringing, but 2 sides for a zipper here. So I got to own whatever I have, and you got to own whatever you have. And when we can fully own radically of our contributions, 100%, each 100% responsible into the space, and part of that in relationship, and when you can have that like sacred relationship and that intimacy is when you can be a reflection for another person and be like, well, this is what I'm getting. So, and then you can tell me what you're getting, and you can reflect on me. What frustrations am I bringing pieces? But I'm telling you that it very frustrating that I was asked the same question many, many times, and you just keep saying no, no, no. And so there's something that I would ask you to reflect in terms of maybe you weren't listening. Maybe you were thinking of something else. Maybe you weren't actually tuning into what I was saying.
Maybe I was challenging you.
I'm asking you, maybe you were, but what I'm reflecting to you that whatever you were doing, I didn't feel heard. Okay. I didn't feel received. I didn't feel listened to. I didn't feel gotten.
Is that my job? Is that my job to like make sure you feel gotten? Because I don't think I was doing anything that crazy, but I feel this accusatory tone with you right now.
I'm telling you, like,
you're telling me over and over again.
Why don't we, let's do this. Let's do another video of us going back, and you can see that you asked me the same question 5 times and I gave you the same answer 5 times. The answer of what am I doing now? What's most alive and what's next? I answered it, and you asked me 5 times.
You still have an accusatory tone. I asked us to come back to our breath and find ways to find harmony. You're still spinning. You're still frustrated. Why? We were just talking. Why? Like, there's something else here going on, Aaron. Like, the irritation is not bad. It's good. Like, there's a energy here. There's a current here. There's a truth here for us to discover together. I don't need to blame you or have you blame me, or for me to take ownership. I own, you own. I know we own together. I know that. And there's a greater truth. There's a greater like oomph inside of all this argument, I believe. Like, I already believe in you as a great teacher. I already know your teachings are fucking awesome. That's why I'm trying to ask these questions. It's just to probe deeper and just to like try to get us to go there. And it's funny because in the same moment you wanted me to like join forces with you and like give you an answer, it's the same moment I was trying to bring the energy that I thought was me trying to like connect into you in time and space to like create the transformer, 1 + 1 = 3 thing. And all of that is to say, I wasn't trying to annoy you by asking the same question over and again. I truly didn't understand. And I do think you like to elevate and talk about the infinity of things. And
I know listen, I know that you say that, and I have different things here, but I answered the question directly 5 times, Aaron.
You keep saying that, but what I'm trying to say to you is when you actually told me that the 260 days cost $260 and you got a thing each day, that's when you were starting to answer the question I was actually asking, which is like, where do you want to put your energy now to create what? I was trying to actually discern what the offering was that you wanted to work on next in a tangible way.
And I had answered the Dream Spell program that's starting on March 25th. I'd answered that probably 5 times as the next thing. He said, well, where are you putting your energy now? Into the ebook and the workbook. Those are the first things that are getting launched. Those are the first things that are coming out. But what's the next thing? The Dream Spell program starting on March 25th. That's the next thing. We kept going around in a cycle of this. And yes, we didn't talk about the details of each one of these things. And yes, there are more here because I was laying out for you to have some idea that it's not all just floating around in space, that there's a lot that has been happening and a lot that's been getting done. And there is form that is being brought, and there is a queue, and there's lots of things that need to be decided in terms of which ones are going to come between the others. But there is already clarity, and there was from the first time you asked me, of what is happening now and what is happening next. So to say I'm swirling around the infinite and all these big ideas, but the order and
you were swirling, and I'm calling you out on the swirlingness, and that really triggered you.
No, and I'm
Even when I say it right now, it's triggering you.
You're calling me out on the swirl, and I'm calling you out on not listening to the answer. And I got frustrated about it and you didn't. So you're better at not getting frustrated than me, but I'm calling you out on not actually listening. I'm calling you out on not hearing the answer to your question. And you're calling me out on swirling. Okay, fine. So this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm creating. And I'm starting with the ebook on time. And that's going to be free. And the first product to sell is a workbook on time. And there will continue to reveal themselves content, offerings, creations around that particular channel. The next program that I'm going to offer, the first program that will launch, is the Daily Dream Spell program, to launch on March 25th. It will be daily messages, contemplations, and affirmations for the Dream Spell, with a group cohort to go through it live, with one group call every 2 weeks, one per wave spell, potentially one call a week. And I will just have it like open Q&A office hours of sorts somewhere. All the participants will be part of a group so they can communicate with each other. Those are the most immediate. Working in the background are the other pieces of it that will continue to take shape in terms of how those will be released afterwards. But in conjunction with this is also building out the funnel into the coaching.
That feels really good to hear you speak with such clarity and succinctness. And I know you were saying it in other ways 1,000 times, but just to hear you summarize it now felt really good. Really good. I did want to ask you, just to layer on top of that, once you start the 260 days, do you think that's going to take up all your time and energy and you should just focus on that for 260 days? Or
absolutely not.
Do you want to start to create the art process one and or the 7 pillars one adjacent?
100%. The dream spell one is not intended to take up a lot of my time. That's why
is there content that needs to be created for that one? Or is that you just go live and then you've already created the content, and or you could do the live thing each day because you can channel it?
Minimal content. It's minimal because the crux of it has already been created. I've already written the contemplations.
Do you want to work on what you called the evergreen courses, the art process and the 7 pillars together? Because the course creation piece of it is something I can definitely contribute to, since I know how to make courses and have made a lot of them in my career.
Sure. Well, this is for you to say of the parts that you want to participate in. But there's even things like, if this was something that you could say that you're making them for me, but if these are creations or products of Holistic Human, then there's different ways of framing it.
Oh, and I would even frame it by saying we're making them for the person that needs to hear them or see them or feel them or experience them. Like it's not about you. You might be the avatar that's speaking in front of the camera, who knows what, and you might be the channel that brought it to this plane. But the act of creation and co-creation and the act of like truly bringing resonant medicine to the earth is just like a holy cow kind of thing. It's beyond us when it really works. But I'm just trying to like clarify what to work on next together.
Well, it could be this is my sequence now. In terms of the grand thing of things, where to want to create a YouTube page. So Holistic Human could have a YouTube page. Oran Zahavi could have a YouTube page. Infinity, the Infinite, has a YouTube page. More longer form content. That was another thing I was going to share with you, that in terms of things that you could be interested to do with your skill set and what you've done in making content, is the Evan Carmichael model. Do you know who Evan Carmichael is?
Mm-mm.
I remember seeing this guy back in 2015 when I left Swagbucks. And
dude, I've heard his name before. Maybe from you.
Probably
say his name.
Yeah.
Before.
So we were looking at this model back with Wellnest. In terms of,
he's not the guy that just did the one thing.
What he did is he started building his YouTube videos by taking publicly accessible content of luminaries and packaging them to repurpose and represent. That's the long and short of it. So Kobe Bryant, Tony Robbins, Oprah Winfrey. And it's like, just have a nice big YouTube cover, and it'll just say like the 3 keys to success and a big picture of Tony Robbins. You know, what you need, like how to have Mamba mentality or whatever. And then he'd create videos taking the content that was publicly accessible. And so he built his page on the back of luminaries by taking their content, packaging it and presenting, and then just making it, and it making them great, as good as they can, but also like ready for, just put them out, content, put them in different languages, more and more. And then it built and built and built. And then as the page started to get a lot of coverage, nobody knew who he was, but now he's presenting himself, starting to put his videos. Fast forward to today, he's got 4 million subscribers. He knows all these guys because he's now interviewed all of them, and he's now speaking on stages, and he's now got that master funnel with the $10,000 offering to work with him about activating entrepreneurs and all of that, of how he did it in his program. And so it's very interesting actually to revisit him and see what he's done now with his business, and telling about himself and how he's branded himself. And it's great. And so for you, in terms of what I was thinking would be, if a good way potentially that you could spend your time and your work under this umbrella is making these types of videos for luminaries that are interesting to you, like, or if within this world. So where he's doing Tony Robbins and Joe Dispenza, you could do some of those too, but it could be Richard Rudd and Bashar and Aubrey Marcus and people of that ilk, that to just copy this model and start plugging in different sets of luminaries. And it doesn't mean, so you could just make the videos yourself, and you could start by doing that, or you could lead the initiative by starting to do it yourself, having the intention to know that it will grow to build to hire other people that still need to be managed and paid for. There's things to build. So there's the potential that you could take your leadership in terms of building out or owning or being accountable for the content pieces of it, the distribution pieces. Somebody's got to own the YouTube page of whatever it is. And so this is a great way where instead of, again, not
or
just,
or there's no YouTube page, and that's not the strategy.
Or maybe there's a different strategy. But I think creating videos for YouTube and creating videos with luminaries, one, it's spending the time that we're already doing of the content we're engaging with, but having a process of creating content that can be distributed and shared and monetized, while also under the same umbrella of elevating mine, yours, or others of products that we create that are aligned with that. So in terms of like a holistic human, what's the holistic human YouTube page? Having videos like this with the likes of Mark Gaffney and Cody Sanchez and all the sorts. I mean, and even like the world, we can validate, we choose, and David Goggins and, whoever it is to choose, and then just create the process, just keep making these videos, building out the YouTube that way. It's a great fucking plan of how to build a business. You got to do it the right way. Doesn't mean it's absolutely going to succeed, but this is what all of the things all of the Gary Vee and the Mickelson twins and Evan Carmichael and all. It's about creating that content, creating the valuable content. And
but I would argue that the Mickelson model is different than this, in that they created, well, first they did it themselves. So they figured out a way to make money by doing a particular paradigm on Audible. And then they said, oh, we're making money doing this. And they actually did a lot of it out loud on YouTube videos and stuff. And then they kind of pivoted away from merely making money by creating content themselves, saying, what if we created courses that taught people to do the paradigm or methodology that we've refined? So they started sharing that. But their biggest thing is that they have a course that they sell, and then they upsell a more premium experience of that course.
Yeah.
And that's how they're getting to what, $60 million in revenue or something like that. Like, it's a very simple business model at the end of the day.
And as you see here, Evan Carmichael's got his mastermind. He's got his program to sell. Here to apply for. They've got the Movement Makers program, the upsell to the coaching. He's doing the same thing.
He's not making $60 million. I'm belaboring this point for a reason, which is a part of me has felt we should try to like go for gold. And I'm using that as a metaphor by figuring out the most premium product we could offer. And I mean that in the sense of the thing that would have the most impact and expand the most hearts and reach the most people in a deep way. Like one of the, visions I had in our earlier conversations was about creating something that I could like literally see you selling on YouTube as a paid advertisement, right? Because I discovered the Mickelson twins on YouTube as a paid advertisement. And it was one of those ones that wasn't like a minute long. It was like an hour long. And you just start watching it and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to click skip next. But then for whatever reason, you're just kind of drawn into the story of it all. And after an hour of watching it, they actually sell you a product or an idea for a product, right? And the product they were selling was publishing.com.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because there's a part of me that thinks the right strategy is to go that big and that bold now and find something that we think would be so great that people would be willing to pay $1,300 for, but also upsell into $5,000 premium offering for.
That's where
and sell it on YouTube as an ad, as a paid advertisement.
Sure. Yeah. That's all absolutely all part of the larger plan. And that's where there is the different levels of content. But for that to create an actual YouTube page, to create the content around it, the basis of it. Now, if you don't want to they're not mutually exclusive, but in terms of the work that you do, creating content, creating videos, creating a way, creating a flow, creating a funnel where we can have these videos produced to populate the content on a holistic human YouTube page would be a very good thing to do. So you can think about it and we can talk about it more. I'm going to go. It's 2 a.m. So, yeah.
I know you don't want to hear this in the wrong way, so please try to take this the right way, which is I want to apologize to you. I didn't mean to offend you or to not be a person that was not receiving you in the way you needed to be received in the moment. I was trying to ask probing questions because I was trying to peel back layers of the onion to get to the heart of what I thought you were trying to say or what you were trying to get at and what we were trying to work on together. So please take my apology for what it is, which is just me trying to be reflective about my own behavior and about my own role in the disagreement we had earlier. And know that I'm committed as your partner and as your friend to always try to become a better version of myself and to create better art together so that we can help create more holistic humans together.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be great. And I apologize for my frustration. I mentioned I've been feeling short across the board, and so bringing that into this and fully own that. And so thankfully nobody's watching this. All right, I'm gonna go. I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right.
Bye.
Love you.